Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Parag Bhalerao. I live in US near Philadelphia, and I want to welcome all of you for today's discussion. Before I start, I thank MIT IIKS for organizing this event and giving all of us an opportunity to discuss, in my opinion, some of the very important and fundamental topics. Before I get into the topic, originally I'm from Pune. In fact, I live very close to MIT in Pune. I grew up in Pune, and since last about 23 years, I am here in US working in IT industry. By educational background, I have done my MS and MBA. And apart from working in IT industry, I'm also very passionate about music and Indology and spirituality. And today's topic is going to be related to Indology and spirituality. In this context, I have also published a book, and the book also is around the same topic that we are going to discuss. And towards the end, I will share some links where you can find out more details about the book. With that, we'll get started. All of you know that in our culture, we see that there are a lot of objections, a lot of criticisms, a lot of questions, and that all leads to a lot of confusion and chaos. And over the period of time, we ended up following only the rituals and forgot the real meaning behind it. And that is, I think, root cause of all this chaos and all these confusions and issues that we are seeing in the society today. So what we are going to do is we are going to touch upon one of the suktas from Veds and understand how scientific and detailed though that sukta is. And similar thing applies to pretty much every portion of any Vedic scripture. But today, in the interest of time and to focus on given topic, we will only focus on one aspect. Now, if we ask anybody, typically anybody in Indian, Hindu, Sanatan tradition, what are your religious books? What are your scriptures? The first common answer we can expect is Bhagavad Gita. And if we try to go beyond that, we all say that it is Veds. And we know that there are 4 Veds. But if we ask anybody, what is Ved? What is there in the Ved? Most people will not be able to answer. And typical answers that I get is, oh, those are some ancient things, I don't know. What is written in the Ved? Oh, I don't know. Maybe some rituals, maybe something about some god or something. I don't know. And our introduction or relation to Ved is only knowing the name and maybe knowing 4 Veds that we have. And that's pretty much it. We rely and depend on some pundits or some pujaris to recite and chant Veds. When we have some event, some puja, some religious activity at home, some pandit comes, he chants, he does whatever he has to do, all the rituals and things, and then he goes home and we are free to eat food. That's as much as we know about Veds and scriptures. Unfortunate, but fact. So let's understand what these Veds are. So first important thing is, what does name Ved itself mean? What does it mean? The word Ved comes from root word called Vid. And Vid means to know. And Ved means knowledge. So whatever we think about as our scriptures, as our religious books or whatever, nothing but they're books filled with knowledge. The name itself indicates that. What kind of knowledge? Again, there are different types of knowledge and sets of knowledge available in Ved. Yes, there are some things about spirituality, but most of the things are scientific. There are a lot of things about astronomy, a lot of things about medical science, a lot of things about agriculture, social science, so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. But unfortunately, we don't know about it. Over the years, we just thought it is just something that somebody has to recite, and we just don't pay attention to it and don't even make attempt to understand it. When we talk about Veds, the first question comes is who wrote Veds and when did they write those Veds? So let's understand that aspect a little bit. Now, in the Ved itself, there is no clear mention of the date. However, there are a lot of references, astronomical, uh, social, and few other references, which give us hint about when those Veds were potentially written. And different scholars have done studies based on those hints or based on those clues and came up with different dating for Veds. There are different scholars and their datings are different, but the one that I liked or I could relate to was by Dr. P.V. Vartak, and his dating goes back to 24,000 BCE, which is about 26,000 years before or in the past. So now you can imagine something that is 26,000 years old or maybe more. And over the years, there is definitely a possibility of message getting diluted or getting diverted from the main stream and so on and so forth. People adding their own perspectives, their own opinions, their own thoughts, all those things are possible. Of course, it is believed that in Veds, there is no such impurity that is added, but in other scriptures, there are doubts that such impurities or some people have added their own thoughts and so on. Now, the next part is who wrote Veds. Now, again, it is assumed that nobody wrote Veds. Veds are assumed to be or called to be apaurushaya. That means not man-made or not created by humans. So again, this becomes a topic for criticism that if it is not written by humans, then who wrote it? Did your God come down and write it for you? And some, people ask all kinds of questions. So this apaurushaya is also very, very simple and practical aspect. Rishis who wrote these Veds, they proclaim that I'm not a creator. It is not my creation. Somebody sent it to me and I just revealed it. I just wrote it or I just made it available to everybody. So I'm not a creator of or composer of these verses or these mantras. And that is why they did not take any credit. They said that when I was in Samadhi state, I heard these. And since they say that I heard this during Samadhi stage, these scriptures are also called Shruti Grantha. That means they are heard. Okay. So these rishis who heard those mantras, they then recited those, taught them to their disciples, and the tradition continued. So that is how those Veds came about. And that is why they are called Apaurushaya. Most of these rishis did not mention their name. They did not take any credit. They did not say, I wrote it. So rishis for many or most of the mantras are not known. Today we are going to focus on creation of universe. In Vedic literature, there are few different suktas that talk about creation of the universe. We are going to focus on something called Purushasukta. And the Drashta Rishi, the Rishi who revealed Purushasukta, is known. His name is documented. His name is Narayan Rishi. So Narayan Rishi is a Drashta Rishi, and he revealed this Purushasukta. And the Purushasukta, it is accepted by all the scholars that it discusses creation of universe. Now, in modern days, we call it as creation, but in our belief system, we don't call it as creation. We assume that this whole thing, and we will discuss more what this whole thing is, but it was already there and it just manifested. It appeared in the form of the universe that we perceive today. So the technically right word is manifestation, but in the discussion, we will use the word creation for the simplicity of understanding. Now, other important thing is when you look at any write-up about Purushasukta, any book, any YouTube video, they all will say that Purushasukta describes creation of universe. But none of the discussion, none of the explanation clearly tells you how that sukta relates to creation. How is the creation of universe described there? I myself could not find any detailed or proper scientific mention of creation of universe analyzed in Purusha Sukta. So that is why we are going to uh, understand that creation or manifestation aspect. Other thing is, Purusha Sukta is probably only Sukta that appears in all four Veds. So it is that important. Also, most of the pujas that we do, most of the rituals we do, there is a Shodashopachara puja, and Shodashopachara puja is typically done following Purusha Sukta. There are other mechanisms also or other paths also, but typically it is done based on Purusha Sukta. So it is very important Sukta, and it talks about creation of universe. Now, what is Sukta? Sukta is Su-ukta. In simple words, well said. So something that is really well said, very valuable, very important, that is what is called as Sukta. Okay. Now, in Sukta or in all the Vedic literature, there are mantras or richas, and they are not shloks. Okay, shlok is different. Shloks are accepted and agreed as composed by humans, different rishis or different scholars, whereas mantras are revealed to human beings by rishis in their samadhi state. They don't take credit for that. Also, when they heard those mantras, they heard it in some specific way, in some specific intonation, in specific fashion, specific manner. And that is exactly how they taught their disciples, and that tradition continued. So mantra, you will see that they are not sung. You can't have music for mantra. We commonly hear Gayatri mantra, somebody is singing with music and all. That is technically not allowed. Mantras are supposed to be recited exactly the way those were heard by these rishis. And even today, if you invite any scholar from anywhere across the globe and ask him to chant, they all will chant mantras in exactly same way. There will not be even a minor variation in intonation or pronunciation or any such thing. Okay, so that is big difference between mantra and shlok. Now we are talking about Purusha Sukta. So what is Purusha? So this again becomes a target for criticism. So, your scriptures talk only about Purusha, not about Stri. So it is male-dominated society. Ladies are not given any importance, any authority, so on and so forth. People who do that kind of criticism have no clue what they're talking about. The word Purusha here has absolute nothing to do with human being or male part of human being. It is totally different. So what is it? If you look at any commentary, they have made or split the word Purusha as Puri Shayanat. Now Puri is a definable space, and Puri or a Pura. Okay, that is definable space. So many times you will see that town or a city or a gaon, it is called as Pura. You must have heard there are thousands of cities in India with name ending Pura, right? So that is what Pura is. It's a definable space. Shayana indicates sleeping. So they split the word Purusha as Puri Shayana or Puri Shete. Both mean the same thing. One who sleeps in entire universe, or in this context, Pura indicates entire universe. Okay. So the one who sleeps in entire universe is Purusha. Now, when I was reading that, I realized that no, if he was sleeping in the universe, he won't be active. He won't form the universe. He won't maintain the universe. He won't grow the universe because he's sleeping. Then I realized that most scholars have made a big confusion in one important alphabet. In Sanskrit and in many Indian languages, there are two alphabets who sound similar. One is Sh and one is Sh. Okay, the one is Sh that comes in Shiva or Shankar, and other is Sh that comes in Krishna. So those are two different Sh sounds. So the Purusha uses one Sh, as you can see in the screen, whereas Shayana uses different Sh. So many scholars have used different Sh and analyzed or interpreted that word as Puri Shayanat. Whereas if we take right Sh, then this Sh tells us Pura Ushayati. Pura is again city or town, or in this context, it is entire universe. And Usha is early part of the morning. We know that word Usha, right? Dawn or early morning. What happens at that time? At that time, we start receiving energy from sun, and the entire earth kind of activates, right? All people wake up, they start all their activities, they receive the light and energy from sun, and kind of everything activates. So that activation, supply of energy, is indicated by word Usha, and that is what is expected here. Pura Ushayati. So the one who provides energy, activates the entire universe, is called Purusha. This is some Shakti or energy. It has nothing to do with any human being or any living being. Okay, and it has no gender. It is just an energy. Okay. Then another important aspect before we start analyzing few mantras in Purushasukta. Purushasukta says that this Purusha, this supreme energy, did a yajna, and it created the entire universe through yajna. Now, what is yajna? We all know yajna is like some bricks are laid and some wood is put inside and the fire is lit and few things are offered in that fire. That is what is yajna. Typically, that is what we think about. But that is a very limited definition and one of the aspects of yajna. In reality, yajna is any process of transformation. So in computer language, you have input, process, and output. That whole thing is nothing but yajna. So any process in which you input one form of something, do the processing, and obtain another form is called yajna. And in so-called traditional yajna also, we lit fire and do some offerings to get something different, to get something else. That is why it is also called yajna. So in Purushasukta, we are going to describe a yajna, a process in which something was offered and something else came out of that. And what came out was the universe that we perceive today. Okay. So with that background, let's get into few of the mantras in Purushasukta. So what you see on the screen is the first mantra. It says, Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabhumim Vishwato Vrutva Atyatishthad Dashangulam. Now, again, if you see different commentaries, different people have tried to interpret or analyze this mantra in spiritual or religious mindset. The literal translation of this mantra goes like what you see on the right side. This 1,000-headed Purusha who has 1,000 eyes and 1,000 legs, and he covers the entire universe and extends beyond the universe by 10 inches or 10 angulas. That is the literal translation. And then naturally the question comes, who is this creature that has thousands of heads? And if he has 1,000 heads, why does he have only 1,000 eyes? He should have then 2,000 eyes and 2,000 legs. So what is this all about? Right? And again, the spiritual discussions, they talk about, oh, we all are part of this Purusha or part of Paramatma. So our head is counted as his head, and we are thousands of us, so there are thousands of heads. You will see these kind of explanations given, which are not scientific, honestly. Now, what does this describe is something very, very scientific. Today, if I ask you a question, what is the most common and most accepted theory of creation of universe in modern science? All of you will answer Big Bang theory. Now, Big Bang itself is a huge theory, but if I have to summarize it in one line, it said that somehow there was a huge explosion, and through that explosion, this entire universe came out. That is the exact stage, that is the exact concept that is explained in this mantra. How so? Let's analyze. First of all, when it says 1,000, it does not really mean exact 1,000. It means thousands of or countless. Okay, that is one important thing we have to understand. It is not the exact 1,000 number. Sahasra means a huge number, a large number, infinite, countless, something like that. Okay, so this Purusha, he has thousands of heads and thousands of eyes and legs. When I started to analyze this mantra, first question I asked, why did Rishi talk only about these three body parts? Why did he not talk about arms and chest and nose and ears and all the other body parts? Then I realized that these three body parts, that as we understand them as body parts today, indicate something different. What do they indicate? The word head indicates individuality. Like even today we use words like per head, right? So, or there were 10 heads gathered for that meeting. So something like that. That means there are 10 different people, 10 people who are separate from each other. So that individuality, the distinctness is indicated by head. So what this mantra is talking is, as a part of that explosion, thousands of objects got created, and these characteristics were there for those objects. The first is, all those objects were distinct. They were unique. They were separate from each other. Now, even if I'm saying objects, those are not tiny objects. Those are gigantic objects. The diameter of that was few light years long. So it's really huge. Okay. So one characteristic, one attribute is those were all individual and separate. Second attribute is indicated by word eyes. What do eyes indicate? Eyes indicate shine or luster. So these were shining or glowing objects. And then legs indicate motion or movement. So these were moving objects. So as a part of that explosion, thousands of unique, distinct objects got created. Those were shining and those were moving. That is what the first line says. If you have to visualize this, you can visualize a burst of a firecracker, right? When the firecracker bursts, thousands of sparks come out and they all travel away from that burst, right? So this was exactly similar situation if somebody were to see this. Now, the second line says, Sa bhumim vishvato vritva atyatishta dashangulam. So he, that Purusha, he covers the entire universe and extends beyond that universe by 10 inches. What does that mean? So first thing is, if Purusha created this universe, he needs some space. Again, space is something that we understand today, but let's say some space in which it can be created, right? If I have to build, let's say, a table, I need a workshop in which I will build it. Now, if I'm building a table inside a room or inside a workshop, that table will not be bigger than the workshop, right? So that workshop will cover that table from all sides, right? So that space itself was Purusha. Purusha itself became space, and he created this universe inside himself or within himself. So since this universe is within himself, he, the Purusha, covers that creation or that universe from all sides. And it extends beyond the universe. The universe that we perceive today, the universe that we understand today, the Purusha extends much beyond that. How much beyond that? We don't know. Then why do they say 10? So 10 is very simple, again, a symbolic number here. 10 does not mean number 10 that we know today. But in decimal system, there are 10 digits, 0 to 9. And anything that cannot be expressed in 0 to 9 is infinite. That is something that cannot be expressed. That is the meaning here, or the thinking here. So 10 indicates infinite here. So he is infinitely spread beyond the perceivable universe. Okay. So now you understand that how this indicates something which is discovered by modern Big Bang theory in last century, and this was documented thousands of years ago in our Vedic literature. If we continue, the next mantra, the second mantra also is very scientific. What is it? It says, Purusha evedagam sarvam yat bhutam yatcha bhavyam utamrutatvasyeeshanah yadanne nati rohati. Now, what is that? It says, whatever exists today, whatever existed in the past, bhuta, or whatever will exist in future, bhavya, all that is nothing but Purusha itself. So these are different manifestations of Purusha itself. Okay. Now, how does that make it scientific? Very simple. We all have studied law of conservation of mass and energy. We say mass and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just keeps changing its forms. And same thing is described here, that Purusha itself always exists. It cannot be destroyed. It is not created. It just keeps on changing its form. It just keeps on manifesting in different forms. So whatever we see is a different manifestation of the same Purusha, same material, for lack of better words, right? So that conservation is indicated in the first line. And the second line again supports, the first part of second line again supports the same concept. It says Amrutatva. Now, Amrutatva is immortality. Now we know that there is nothing is immortal. But we also study in science that the matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. And that is what the attribute of Purusha is. So that is also immortal. It just expresses itself in different forms. And the last part is very interesting. It says, Yadanne natirohati, annena atirohati. So what it says is, this Purusha provides food for entire universe to grow. Now, what is this food and how does it provide food to universe? Right? It all sounds very confusing. But if we think about it, it's very simple. First of all, what is food? Food is something that we perceive as what a rice or roti or vegetables or curry and all those fruits and things like that. That is food for us, for humans. For different organisms, food is different. Simple example, for mosquitoes, they don't eat rice, right? Blood is their food, just as an example, right? So different organisms have different definition of food. But food is a substance that helps us grow and stay healthy, right? So our sustenance and growth is done through food. So same way, sustenance and growth of this universe is done by the food that is provided by the Purusha. Now, if you Google a word called dark energy, you will see exactly same concept. The modern science doesn't know what this energy is, but they know that the universe is constantly growing. So there must be some energy that contributes or that helps the universe grow. What is that energy? We don't know what it is. And since we don't know, we call it dark energy. But here it clearly says that the same Purusha, it provides food for the universe to keep it growing and going. Okay. So again, these are very, very interesting and scientific concepts you will see in every single mantra of Purushasukta. As we keep moving forward, I will just skip a few in the interest of time. Okay, this is 7th mantra. Now, by the time we come to 7th mantra, from the creation of universe, now the Rishi is focusing towards formation of earth. Okay. Now in this mantra it says Saptasyasan paridhayah Trisapta samidha kritaha Deva yad yajnam tanvanaha abadhan purusham pashum. So what it says is there were 7 boundaries and 3 times 7 types of fuels is what the first line says. Now, what are these 7 paridhi? In the context of yajna, paridhi is some specific types of sticks that are kept around the yajna that defines boundary of the yajna. Okay, so those are sticks that define the boundary. Now here it says there were 7 boundaries or 7 such sticks that define the boundary coming to the earth. Now, if you think properly, it's very easy to understand what these 7 boundaries are. 7 boundaries in the context of earth are 7 seas or 7 oceans, whatever you call it, and 7 islands, Sapta Dvipa and Sapta Sagar, that define boundaries of earth or boundaries of land on the earth. Right? So that is what is mentioned here, that now the earth is forming, and on the earth there are 7 islands and 7 oceans. And then for the formation of this earth and sustenance of this earth, there are 21 types of fuels. Now again, if you read any analysis, people have interpreted 3 sapta, that is 3 times 7 as 21, and then they have given what those 21 could be. And if you read it, it looks like they have stretched something and put together to add it to 21. So they say Pancha Pran, Pancha Tattva, Chitta, Buddhi, Ahankar, so on and so forth. Somehow they add different aspects and add it to 21. But when I was reading, I also started thinking, if the Rishi wanted to say 21, Rishi would have said 21. Why did he say 3 times 7? And the reason he said 3 times 7 is there are 3 sets of energies, and each set has 7 types of energies. That is what constitutes to total 21. Now, what are these 3 sets? So again, if you understand, first set is kind of easier to understand. We know that Earth is revolving in its orbit, and there are different attractive and repulsive forces acting on the Earth that is helping Earth stay in its orbit. And those are attractive and repulsive forces from 7 other planets. And those attractive forces and repulsive forces that allow Earth to stay in its orbit, that is one set of those 7 fuels or 7 energies. The second set is the energy that we get from sun is categorized into 7 different types of energies. That is not 7 colors of the rainbow or 7 colors in the light. This is different types of energies that we get from sun. Again, in the interest of time, we won't go into the details. But one interesting thing, if you ever see a photograph or a picture of sun's chariot always has 7 horses. And that is because it is a symbolism. It indicates those 7 types of energies that we get from sun. And then the third group is different bands of energies, and those are clearly mentioned. They include infrared, ultraviolet, electricity, and so on and so forth. Interestingly, the 7th energy, that is energy band that is indicated in our scripture, it's called Manojava. And that means the energy that travels faster than mind. And definitely that is faster than light. Now, modern science until recently did not agree or did not think that there is anything that can travel faster than light. Today, they are exploring the possibility of something being there that travels faster than light, but that is documented in our scriptures thousands of years ago. that there is another one band of energy called Manojava, which travels faster than mind, or travels like mind, which is much faster than light. So those are different types of fuels, three sets that formed or that supported formation of Earth, and they continue to support existence of Earth. The last part of this mantra, again, you will hear some criticism. It says Abadnan Purusham Pashu. Literal translation is the Pashu, the animal, was sacrificed in that yajna. And now you will hear a lot of criticism that, your Veds, they support, they talk about Pashu Bali or sacrificing animals and things like that. Now, simple thing, these people who criticize, they don't understand that in the context of this mantra, the earth is currently being formed. Life on the earth is not yet formed. There is no life on the earth. That comes later. In next mantras, you will see that. So there is no life, there is no pashu, no animal on the earth, or no animal exists that can be sacrificed. So this is not talking about animal sacrifice or pashu bali. What it is talking about is the Purusha itself became the sacrificial material, sacrificed itself in the yajna to continue formation of other things on the earth. One of the meaning of Pashu is also Atma. So the Purusha itself sacrificed itself and created this entity called Atma, which will be then installed, for lack of better words, in every living being. So those living beings can survive. So it is again no andhashraddha or no misconception, no non-scientific thing you will ever see in any of the mantras. Again, we'll skip a few. Okay, we'll just cover 13th one, and then probably we'll stop for this session. So this mantra, or before this mantra, the rishis, they imagined, they visualized this Purusha in human form, in human shape. And then they questioned that if this Purusha was sacrificed for creation of different things, then what happened to his head? What came out of his head? What came out of his ears? What came out of his eyes? What came out of his nose? What came out of his arms and legs and thighs and so on and so forth? So that is the question that is asked in 12th mantra. And from 13th mantra, the explanation comes talking about what exactly manifested or what exactly came out of different perceived or imagined body parts of that Purusha. Now, the first thing it says, Brahmanosya mukhamasit bahu rajanya kritah uru tadasya yad vaishyah padbhyagam shudro ajayata. What it says, again, we'll see the literal translation. From the mouth of that Purusha, Brahmins came. From his arms, Kshatriya or Rajanya came. From his thighs, Vaishya came. And from his feet, Shudra came. Now, really speaking, so far there is no society that is formed on the earth. So classification of society in these four varna is not possible when this mantra is being discussed, right? So what do these four words mean? What do they indicate? It is very simple. The mouth is indication of knowledge. How knowledgeable somebody is, of course, we can see that through his actions, but mostly we see it in the way he speaks. So the mouth indicates the intellect or the knowledge part. What it means is this Purusha created an entity called intelligence and instilled it in every living being. Every living being has intelligence. Every living being has knowledge. You look at beings like humans or insects or microorganisms or unicellular organisms like amoeba, right? They know. they understand what they are, where they are, what they are supposed to do, so on and so forth. They have that knowledge. So that knowledge piece was put in every single living being, which is described in uh, Brahman quality. So that Brahman quality was instilled in every single human, every single living being. So it can gain knowledge about its own existence, surveillance, so on. The second quality is Kshatriya quality. What is Kshatriya quality? Kshatriya quality is like defense. So self-defense. So every being, every organism is capable of protecting itself, at least to a certain degree, or it can make an attempt to protect itself. That quality of self-defense is indicated by Kshatriya quality. Then every organism has an ability to store something within itself. What is that something? It can be anything. So one simple example is food. We eat typically twice a day, thrice a day, whatever it is, right? And we store that food in our body and then consume it for different activities. So that ability of storing is quality indicated by Vaishya. Okay. So from that, and thighs are usually in human body, thighs is where your excess mass is kind of accumulated or stored. So that is where that thighs are related to that storage part of it. So that Vaishya quality, ability to store, was instilled in every living being. And Shudra indicates all other essential activities, moving around, doing things, stuff like that. So all those essential activities are indicated or made possible through Vaishya, through Shudra quality. So this indicates different qualities that are instilled in every living being. This has nothing to do with any Varna Vyavastha yet. Now this mantra and the Varna Vyavastha is also a very, very sweet target for people to criticize. Unfortunately, over a period of time, this Varna Vyavastha got converted into Jati Vyavastha, which is not described anywhere in any of our scriptures. And then people started criticizing it. And then a lot of people, a lot of institutions started using that Jati Vyavastha for their selfish benefits. And you know what exactly happened and how it works in social structure today, you all are aware. Other important thing to understand, later in some scriptures, these 4 words are also used for Varna Vyavastha, which is social classification. But nowhere ever it says that one Varna is more important than other, or supreme than, or superior than other. All 4 Varnas are equally essential, equally important for any society. Rather, it says that everybody is born as Shudra. Janmana jayate Shudra. Samskara dvija uchyate. That is what we hear. So everybody is born as Shudra, and depending on the knowledge he or she acquires, depending on the profession that he or she selects, his other Varnas are decided. So it is not by birth, it is by actions and knowledge. Okay? Now, if you read my book, there is a separate appendix I have added in this to discuss this whole Varna Vyavastha and Jati Vyavastha and the confusion that is caused because of that. Okay. So that is pretty much what I thought I will cover today in given time. As I mentioned, I have published a book which has all 16 mantras and detailed scientific analysis, and a lot of supporting topics are added in the appendix. And again, I'll encourage all of you to read this book, to get that knowledge, to get that awareness that our scriptures are not just, myths or something that has no relevance in today's society. Those are very, very scientific, very, very technical documents. And I'll encourage all of you to make an attempt to understand Once we understand, we can talk about it intelligently, and we can uh, avoid many misconceptions and educate the society. So with that, this is again website. There is my email address also. If anybody has questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be very happy to answer your questions. The book is available on different channels, including Amazon. But if you go to my website, you will see various channels where the book is available. And of course, there are some social handles where you can reach out to me or ask any questions. But with that, before I conclude the session, I want to thank MIT IIKS again for giving us all this opportunity to discuss this topic, understand some scientific aspects, and enrich our understanding, that we can uh, talk to other people and make it available to more and more people, and avoid any misconceptions and misunderstandings about our heritage. Thank you.